Polyphony, the sacred polyphony of Josquin and Victoria. Josquin and Victoria's multiple phones. Polyphony, literally meaning many voices, is the term found throughout Western music to denote the relationship between the voices or parts in a musical composition. More specifically, it indicates that more than one part or melodic line is occurring independently and simultaneously to some extent. It has been used extensively by composers of the Renaissance period, which is 1400 to 1600, including Josquin de Pré and Thomas Louis de Victoria. Both de Pré and Victoria have composed pieces under the category of sacred music, often including motets, which are influenced by religious ritual, setting, or intent, and have been expressed with devotion to the Catholic Church.
Josquin de Pré was a French Renaissance composer born circa 1450. His works primarily fit into the motet, mass, and chanson subgenres. Josquin was widely regarded with great repute in both his own time and now as a highly influential and talented composer. Specifically, he is a pioneer of imitative counterpoint, with his magnum opus, Ave Maria, Virgo Serena, exemplifying this. Ave Maria, Virgo Serena is considered a watershed of musical history, meaning it indelibly changed the manner in which works are composed and structured technically. This is largely attributable to Josquin's inspired and innovative use of imitative counterpoint, a technique which permeates the entirety of the piece. In relation to a purely vocal work such as Ave Maria, Virgo Serena, imitative counterpoint is a musical convention in which a phrase is sung, and while it is sounding, an identical phrase is sung by another voice in the middle of the first phrase.
An example of imitative counterpoint used in Ave Maria can be observed here. The soprani sing the initial phrase, then the tenori sing the same phrase 2 bars later. The soprani phrase ends, and the alti follows in a similar fashion to the tenori. The alti phrase ends, and the bassus begins in a similar fashion to the tenori. I'll now play a recording of that. Follow along to this score and see the imitative counterpoint unfold before your very eyes. Let's take a look at another example of imitative polyphony. This one comes from a bit later in the piece, in the final phrases. We'll take a look at the phrase omnibus and its movement throughout the different parts. Omnibus can be translated to one bus, which is a representation of Jesus, which is to be expected in a motet because it's based on religious texts. It means that Jesus is the bus that you take to heaven, and the only bus you can take to get there, hence one bus. That was incorrect. I made that up. The polyphony moves in a similar way to the previous example, from soprani to alti to tenori to basses. The soprani sing their omnibus. 4 beats later, the alti sing their omnibus. This is different harmonically and rhythmically to the soprani omnibus. 4 beats after that, the tenori sing their omnibus. This is the same rhythmically and harmonically as the soprani. 3 beats after that, the basses sing a shorter omnibus in order to finish with the tenor. Even though not every part has exact imitation, there is still repetition among the parts. For example, the distance between each of the phrases starting, which is 4 beats. As a result, this is another example of imitative polyphony. I'll now play you a recording of the score you see right in front of you. Follow along and witness the wondrous effect of imitative polyphony.
Another composer strongly associated with the sacred polyphony of the Renaissance period is Thomas Louis de Victoria. from 1548 to 1611. Imitative Victoria was a Spanish composer, and his music was associated with the sacred polyphony of the late Renaissance period. Beckman Collier states that the Roman choirs that Victoria associated with became the central focus of late 16th century music. Victoria was known for his mastery in creating thick polyphonic textures in his choral music. And in performance of Victoria's music, ornamentation and embellishment were customary, along with the practices of aligning with the practices of sacred polyphony in the late Renaissance period.
O Magnum Mysterium by Victoria. Victoria's O Magnum Mysterium was published in 1572 as part of his first published collection of secular works, and is a motet written for 4 voices. This late Renaissance composition uses imitative polyphony to make each part harmonically interdependent, embodying the changing features of music at this time and the development of harmony. Integration between parts in O Magnum Mysterium can be seen in Victoria's use of isorhythm in the lower parts, making them more equal. The singing is also less melismatic, with more use of syllables in the melody. As discussed by Walsh, the development of polyphony, in which 4 or more voices has each an independent existence and yet works together to create a harmonious whole, was one of the signal events in Western intellectual history.
References: Beckman Collier A., 1988. Performance Practices of Sacred Polyphony in Rome and Madrid at the times of Louis